Hello everyone and welcome to another MTR Fab video. This week we're going to show you why doing it yourself is worth it. Now I have a real life example here. Excuse the shadows, excuse the lighting, it's going to be bad, but the value in this video is you can do it yourself at home. This is my lady's car that is in need of some work. And here's the quote she got. And I'm going to try to get it without all this shadow. Here's the quote she got. It's for, it says, replace both upper control arms. The labor involved is $297.50. The parts were $197 a side, and they're saying there's $6 of goodies and $24 in taxes, and all of a sudden we come to $722 to have her control arms replaced. Now, I looked around about this, and what I realized is that I could buy these parts locally at AutoZone for $108 a piece. So I purchased them myself last night. I did one. It took me about an hour and a half. Now, mind you, this is on a slant in my driveway, and what I'm showing you is that even with the struggle of doing it in your driveway, in roughly 3 hours, I'm hoping to have saved roughly $500. So with that said, these are the tools to do the job. This is based on my experience last night. We'll see if there are any new challenges on the other side. But I have a long, heavy-duty solid metal bar to pry the suspension A-arm down when I need to. I did find I had to drop the strut tower assembly to get the bolts out that hold the control arm in. And when I say that, it's the bolts that go through here and here. Now they're hard to get at without moving the coil mechanism out of the way, just pulling it forward while you undo the bolts. Luckily, even with a Northeast car, you know, these look pretty rusty, but the hardware that was actually in there wasn't. And they came out rather easy. I'm hoping the second side does the same. So I'm going to take you guys with me. Basic tools, hand tools, nothing special. The only thing missing from this pile of stuff is the jack to hold the car up. I do it with a jack and I put some blocks under it. I'm not going to video that, but I'm going to show you the repair and we're going to see how quick we can do it the second time. Jacked up, it's ready to go. Here's a Patient 2012 Honda Accord. And here's the part we're going to go after. Again, excuse the lighting. We're taking this guy out of here because it holds the ball joint, and they do the control arms on these cars as a whole unit. But there's a 14mm bolt there, and there's a 14mm bolt there. This one's pointed that way, that one is pointed that way. We need to get them out. There's a strut tower, or a strut, that you may need to take out of your way. You might get lucky in some cases. But on the other side I had to take it out. And when I say take it out, I just took the 3 nuts off the top, carefully noting where they're positioned. They've never been moved on this car, so I'm going to put them right back where they are. If you don't, you could possibly screw with the alignment, which is not what I'm here to do. So, the other fastener that you're going to need to get is this ball joint here. Luckily, you can be pretty aggressive with this. I broke those free using a gear wrench, 14mm. Both sides probably, honestly, weren't in there very tight. I suppose it's because these are rubber mounted bushings, and actually I'll show you the little note that comes in the package with the new ones. But that, literally, I was able to just reach up there with a closed end, ratchet my way out. I'm going to go after this pin now, get that out of the way, take my 17mm, and that'll take care of that nut. I'm going to go up here and take these strut tower nuts. These are the ones that I tell you, if you know you've moved your car's alignment, you may want to mark around these nuts. But I can tell you these have never been off. I'm going to leave the dirt in place. It's going to be my indicator. The center tower of the strut is located dead center in the middle of the hole on both sides. I'm going to spray these with some WD-40, which I didn't the other day. I did, however, spray each backside of those nuts, which we'll talk about too. I want you to know that that's not a nut. Well, it is a nut, but it's welded to the chassis. It's not going to fall out. So all you're doing is worrying about what's going on inside. Don't try to take this nut off. You know, back the bolt out on the inside. By the way, use the super wrench here. Check my channel out for videos on this. This is like the most valuable tool I have. Go check out the review and get yourself one. Okay, when I say leave the wear marks or the dirt marks, you can see what I'm talking about. So I got lucky on this one, but if you can't get this damn pin out, don't sit there and screw around with it. Just break it off as clean as you can and then undo the nut. The nut will clear by the pin. 17 millimeter. I'm going to lube everything up on the way out, and that way stuff just comes apart a little bit easier. And I'm hoping, that's right, you can't get a closed end on there, so you just want to make sure you got a good bite. Now I did that with one hand while holding the camera, but now you can see that allows this guy to kind of move out of our way. You want to be careful of, you know, stuff attached. You don't really want to stretch it. But now you see that's control arm. It's just flopping around. Now all I got to do is get enough stress on this arm downward to get the strut out of the way. Now that's what that big metal bar is about. Decline any more than I already have. So I'm actually going to take this and bring it on the other side. See that? Now that's out of the way. Go back up in here very carefully. And you can see. Now I may need, I'm going to straddle this, kind of weird, but now you got to be very careful with your hands at this point. Alright, so that was like a three-handed maneuver, but we got it. Now you see what I'm saying? Get this far enough out. I'm going to do the front one first because I got a nice space. I might pull it over to this side, get the other one. Thank God for ratcheting wrenches, guys. I don't know how people used to do this work without them. This was kind of loaded up on there. And when it's loaded up, you won't be able to pull these bolts out by hand. But even in the Northeast, this car is a 2012. It's 2021. I can still undo these bolts. Granted, you know, I did WD-40 them yesterday and again today, but I'm able to turn on this as long as it's not, you know, pinched. As soon as you pinch it, it loads right up where you need a wrench. But they are pretty long-winded bolts, you know, probably an inch of threads that you got to back out, so be patient with it. Okay, magic moment. I'll show you guys how long they are. They're both the same length. Throw them in your bin. I've talked about this in other videos. I love keeping an oil pan when your driveway, doing it dirty. That way your stuff doesn't roll away. It's in a semi-clean environment. But there it is, folks. And we'll check the timer. We're 19 minutes and 46 seconds in. I'm going to go eat some dinner and I'm going to put this back together. So definitely womped. It's hard to show you, but it definitely moves in and out. You know, you can feel it quite a bit. So it was time for sure. Good on them for bringing it to my attention, and we'll get them out of there. All right, here's our replacement part. Let's see if I can get open. Now, in the other one, a little piece of paper right here. It says avoid premature bushing wear. Do not fully tighten bushing until suspension is at ride height. So you put these in loose, and I think by bushings they're talking about these guys, because these are rubber mounted, I assume. Yeah. So I think they get clocked. You know, I'm not a mechanic, guys. If you know the answer to this stuff, then that's great. But I'm a kind of learn as you go, get it done kind of guy. And I believe I've seen this before in other applications, where you want it in the range of movement it's going to operate in. You don't want to pinch it where it's not going to live, because if you start loading up stuff like that, it'll tear when it's already pinched in place. So there it is. I'm going to validate that this is an identical arm before I go through the effort of struggling to get it in there. But there's your fresh new cotter pin for your ball joint. And again, nice OEM replacement. Duralast lifetime warranty for, I want to say it was 108 bucks. It's chow time. Alright, back from dinner. Let's get back to it. Now, time to put it back in reverse order. Get both of them in place, and then don't tighten either of them until you get them both to start on the threads. And you really want to make sure you get them to start nice before you start wrenching on them, because they are not in an easy spot to tap or fix. So make sure you do this part and take your time and get everything lined up like it has to be. And I may have to take my own advice and maybe not videotape this, but you get my drift. Yeah. You can do this from the top side. I think I took it off part way through on the top side, and I realized I can get more swing down on this side, but obviously not if you drop the wrench. So, you gotta get the thing lined up again. Anyway, you get the drift. And I'm gonna sneak through there again, like I did before. But the challenge is now I have to push down on this bar and then push this back in to get those studs to line up top. Get my torque wrench out. Right. So I started that castle nut as much as I could by hand. Now you can't fit the closed end ratchet end of this wrench on this, or else I obviously would probably prefer to use that. So let's talk about the torque spec. The torque spec is, it wasn't that tight. So I'm not going to make it that tight. Same thing with those 14mm bolts that hold the top of the control arm in. Honda didn't go out of their way to crank those on. This one has a cotter pin to set it. So I'm literally going to make sure that it's tight. And I'm going to give it a little wonk. And now I see the hole kind of facing me on this. It's good. Give it another turn. And I'm honestly going to be happy with the tension I put on that nut. No movement. Yeah. And pop the cotter pin out. Or pop a cotter pin in. Now that is officially murdered cotter pin. Alright, now it's time to put the wheel on it. And actually, before we do that, we want to get these on so we can get this nice and lined up, as we may need to pull on stuff that we'll have limited access to once we put a wheel on. So the other one went kind of naturally back where it was for all these years. So did that one. You know, I'm going to be okay with that. I'm not going to get overly picky. Ouch. Let's see what I got there. Smashing the camera with my super wrench. So again, put these about as tight as they were. Good enough. Okay. Didn't let it all the way down, but you know, it's probably 80% down. Weight's on the wheel. Now I can sneak in here and hopefully get the ratcheting end on there. Sometimes you can't. Yeah. I think I can. There we go. Alright, and again, these were not incredibly tight to begin with. I'm going to put them essentially as tight as I can with tight restrictions and a 8-inch wrench or whatever that one says. And I'm going to tighten this one. And then this job is complete short of shutting the hood, jouncing the vehicle a little bit, letting everything settle. I'm going to go take it for a ride. And that's as tight as it's going to get. So, you know, pretty much everything, double check. See the bolt head coming through. We're all good, everything's back together. I'm going to call this job done. Now, the total of 45 minutes. Yesterday it took me an hour and a half. This is all I used for tools to get this done. Now this is stuff most of you would have at your house. Alright? Short of, you know, you may not have a big metal bar, but I'm sure you can find one. Now, all done. Probably got 2.5 hours invested into doing both sides in a 2-night stint. I didn't want to do both last night. I just chose to take 2 bites so I could share this video with you today. We did the second side on camera. Well, that's it, folks. I just want you to know you can do it. It's limited stuff. It's super cheap. And you know what? High miles car like this, you know, I don't know how much longer we're going to have it. So I don't want to throw all kinds of money and parts and labor into this car. I just want to keep driving it. So 722.23 subtract 216 equals, we're going to divide that by 3 hours. I just got paid $168 an hour to do that repair for myself. You know, I don't know at what point it's worth it to you to do your own stuff, but for me, I don't get paid anywhere near that. I'm happy to do that and get it off my plate.